Welcome back, everyone, to Patriot to the Core podcast. I am Thad Forrester, your host, and I sincerely thank you once again for listening to me this week. My guest is Mr. Mark Lauren, who was an Air Force combat controller. And several years ago, I picked up his book called You Are Your Own Gym, and I quickly realized what a great workout I can get in just by using my own body weight. So we maybe throw in a phone book or two and a dumbbell, and you can really just get an incredible workout, even in a very small physical space. And this is important because I do travel for work as well, and so I don't always have to have I don't have to have a gym at the hotel. I can get plenty of a great workout in my hotel room. But we talk about his philosophies on training. We don't talk about diet that much. We talk about how his philosophies have changed over the years, and also his Air Force career just a little bit. Mostly his early on training. He entered the combat control pipeline in great physical shape, and in the swimming portion of the pipeline, he actually was failed by like one or two sit-ups because his hands were too high on his head or something ridiculous like that, and he had to go back and start over that portion. With a more junior team, and so he seriously considered quitting because that was already a smoker anyway, that portion. And but he said he went through again. It was easier the second time he made it, and then he ended up becoming an instructor in the pipeline. And it was the period where he was training our guys to get them ready to deploy to Afghanistan and Iraq, because this was now in like 2001 and then 2002. And so he developed a workout program for them, and he said they were stronger, they were in much better shape, and some of his philosophies are like he works on developing skills, not muscle, and he just says performance is best measured in efficiency. And we talk a lot about locomotion, about movement on the ground, getting from the ground to standing upright. The guy has done some, kind of some crazy things in his life too, with his jiu-jitsu and his MMA fighting and his Thai boxing, and he got his jaw broken. He got in the ring one time in a boxing match in Thailand when he wasn't prepared, and it cost him his mouth getting wired shut for a little while. So I hope you enjoy this time with Mark. He's got plenty of videos online, and you'll see his website in the show notes, and he's got a YouTube channel. And I think you'll be impressed by his body. It's a pretty perfect specimen, I would say, and I mean that in the most heterosexual way possible. Okay, well, Mark Lauren, welcome to Patriot to the Core. Appreciate you joining me today.
My pleasure.
I wanted to, before we get into your book, You Are Your Own Gym, and I know you've got some other things out there too, but I wanted to talk about your time in the military and maybe go back to the early days of. I'm wondering, because right now you seem to be in tip-top shape. What kind of shape physically were you in when you joined the Air Force?
I was in good shape when I joined the Air Force. I was in really good shape. I mean, I had wrestled in high school, and right after wrestling season ended, before the end of the year, I also competed then in my high school's bodybuilding show, where I won the overall division. So and then I think I had something like 8 months to prepare for the special operations community, where I really started doing a lot of the water work. So I was probably physically as ready as I could have been.
All right. So were you above, or were you ahead of the other people early on in the pipeline when you started?
Physically, absolutely. Yeah, physically I went in really strong. So my calisthenics were really solid. I could run. I couldn't fin swim. You put those rocket fins on me and I felt like I was going backwards. But the thing, to be totally honest, the thing that failed me completely, I think, was just sort of the work ethic and leadership and like some of the communication skills that I think a lot of the kids that kind of grow up in suburbia America are lacking, and that probably more like the farm boys would have a better hold of.
So were you a suburban kid?
Yeah, I was. Luckily, my saving grace was really the fact that I wasn't spectacular physical condition. which allowed me kind of like the time I needed to catch up with the other skills, which I'd mainly say was just leadership and communication and things like that.
So how did you get in? Like, what was your workout regimen like in high school, and how did you learn to do what you did then at the young age?
I started with I ran a little track in middle school, and even in middle school, without ever even running track, going out for the track team in the 6th and 7th grade, I would get into the 5-minute miles without any kind of real preparation. So I think genetically I was blessed in some ways, but then doing track, I learned about basically strength training and doing calisthenics. And I started when I was 12 years old, and I never stopped. So by the time I was before I was 13, I had done over 600 nonstop sit-ups, and I could knock out about 100 push-ups, good push-ups. And that was just from like doing stuff next to my bed at night. I wrestled in high school, like I said, and once I was a teenager, I got into lifting weights. So even as a teenager, I could bench press twice my body weight. And so I think I would eat like a madman, and I don't think I ever got up above 158 pounds. But I was benching 315, and I had a good squat and deadlift and all that. And I guess because my pound for pound weight strength was pretty good, I could still run. So I could run 2 miles in under 12 minutes, which for that kind of strength was pretty good.
Dang. So the career in the Air Force as a combat controller is very demanding. Will you just describe what kind of things y'all did? And because I know your book talks about it, and I would like to maybe even pull up a few specifics if you don't talk about it, with all the pull-ups and sit-ups and push-ups. But what was it like?
What was the training like?
Yeah, like in the pipeline.
Well, I guess the thing that stands out the most to me was, at the time, pararescuemen and combat controllers went to the indoctrination course, which was 10 weeks long, 9 to 10 weeks long, and it's a volunteer career field. So it's one of those deals where you can at any time quit and take a break, and you can't take a break, but you can stop whatever event you're in, middle of an event, especially at the pool. And the instructors will say, all right, get out of the pool, go to the locker room, and you can go eat pizza in your room. We'll find you another career field. And it was, so those first 10 weeks were extremely challenging in that you didn't really need to be there, and they did not do a great job of educating you about what the career field was about to begin with. So I think one of the things that is probably still kind of lacking is that, like, the kids a lot of times up front don't have a super strong reason for enduring the things that they're going through, because you have like these mission statements and these other things that kind of describe what the career field is about, and it's sort of meaningless. And I remember it was like a combat controller's mission was like to deploy to areas of forward operations by various means to establish assault zones, and I was like, I could recite it, but I had no idea what it meant, Mm-hmm. And then you're getting up at 4 a.m, you're PTing, you're doing massive amounts of calisthenics all day long. You're running, and then after lunch they take you to the pool, and that's really where it starts to get ugly. And every single event, which might be swimming 50 meters underwater, or buddy breathing, or tying knots, they had all sorts of different events. Every single event was a go no go criteria, where you either had to complete the event successfully, exactly the way you were supposed to do it, or you could quit, or you would pass out trying, in which case they would pull you out of the pool. They probably didn't have to revive you, because you don't start trying to suck in water for, 60 seconds or something like that. I've actually never seen anybody pass out underwater and actually need to be resuscitated, and I've seen a bunch of dudes pass out underwater. So they just pull you out of the pool, and you automatically start breathing on your own again. And once you do, you're kind of out of it. You're pale, you're blue-lipped, you're dreaming about like dwarfs and all kinds of other weird stuff, and suddenly you're laying on the side of the pool. And they ask you, "Are you all right?" And you say, "Who ya, Sergeant?" And they say, "All right, get your ass back in the pool and do it again. You didn't finish it." And you'd be faced with those exact same options again. And so every single event was go no go. And obviously, whenever you screwed up an event to do it again, it got harder and harder and harder. And that's really where you saw a lot of guys quit. You know, like they'd be out in the middle of the pool. You weren't allowed to grab the side of the pool to rest or anything. And let's take like knot tying or ditch and don. Between tries, you're treading water. So if you screwed it up, you're coming up to the surface and you got to do it again. But now you're more fatigued and you're getting more and more fatigued with every second that passes as you're treading water. And so, I mean, to basically, I guess, describe that first 10 weeks of training, the indoctrination course, I would say more than anything, it just it taught you to kind of like get control of yourself. And to like just to kind of commit to things and try to do them right the first time, you know, and to not worry about things that aren't within your control, which is an important lesson in life, I think.
Yeah. So you had a setback and you got sent back to a junior class or something. Well, what happened there? And I'm wondering how you, like mentally, how you dealt with that.
Not so good. Not really well. I didn't like it. I wasn't happy about it, and I guess I kind of had it coming. You were allowed to miss each event a certain number of times, and I think it was each event, like each run session, each cal session, each pool session, you were allowed to miss twice, right? Because guys would sometimes have to go to sick call, and I was gaming it basically, like making sure I missed every single event 2 times by going to sick call. And, you know, like my thinking was like, hey, if those are the rules, those are the rules. I'm going to take advantage of them. Well, one of the instructors didn't like that, and he counted my sit-ups back-to-back on back-to-back weeks. And basically, if you failed the same event on 2 back-to-back weeks, then you failed the course, and they might give you the option to try it again. But you know, counting calisthenics, it's not, no matter how objective you make anything in written black or white text, it never really is objective, you know. So it was like, hey, those didn't count, those didn't count, those didn't count. Your hands are too high up on your head. Oh, okay, so they're here. And then it's like, hey, those didn't count. You're not coming up high enough, and it's because basically like my feet were too close to my butt, so I couldn't come up that much further, which actually makes it harder. So, anyways, the 8th week, he failed me by 2 reps. Then the following week, the last evaluation. So it was the last event before I graduated, the final day of training, and he failed me by 1 sit-up. And I had to start the entire course over. Of course, I had the option to quit, and I seriously considered it. But you know, fortunately, that didn't happen. So yeah, so I just had to do the course again. It was much easier the second time.
What did you tell yourself when you found out you had to start over?
When I failed, it felt surreal, to be honest. Like I didn't really think that they were going to fail me for it. And I think part of it too had a lot to do with the fact that I came in really strong, much stronger than most kids, and but sort of like in some ways I was lacking, you know, like the things that I talked about, basically like some leadership and communication skills. And so I guess that was just their way of kind of like making sure that I felt the same pain that everybody else felt.
So it kind of, did it humble you a little bit? Is that what they were trying to do?
Yeah, maybe. Right. And it certainly did. And it definitely worked out for the better. And there was a really valuable lesson in that. And, you know, things that we kind of judge as being good or bad now often turn into circumstances that later are for the better or the worse. So who knows, you know, kind of, yeah. You never really know how things are going to turn out. I ended up having a great team leader that second time around. And he was a young captain, well, a 30-year-old captain out of the Air Force Academy. And I learned a lot underneath his mentorship.
Well, how did you incorporate your philosophy on training and working out into your your time while you were in the pipeline, or did you even at that point?
No, I didn't, because they basically tell you what to do. And once I was on a team, or it isn't until you're on a team, and the entire training pipeline takes about 2 years before you're really deployable. And until you get to that point, a lot of your PT is dictated by the cadre, obviously. So, but once I got on a team, it was just calisthenics, weightlifting, and running and swimming. But I think my whole philosophy on fitness now, it has like really drastically been changing over the years. I mean, I'm learning a lot as I go along. Even now, 27. I'm 40 now, so 27 years after I started training when I was 12, I'm still learning a lot. And honestly, like I've probably learned a lot more the last 5 years than during any other period.
So your book, You Are Your Own Gym, came out in 2010. Is that right?
Yeah, self-published in 2010, and before getting picked up by Random House.
All right. So what has your philosophy changed in what ways since even then? Because I got the book right after it came out. I think I got it in 2010 sometime.
I guess what I really noticed, especially going into the special operations community, and then continuing to do martial arts, like I went to Thailand to compete in Thai boxing professionally, and I did some half Ironman triathlons and a lot of other sports. I did jiu-jitsu and MMA and a lot of these different things, and then just professionally move, shoot, communicate type things. I guess the lesson that I kept learning over and over and over again is that incredible amount of time and energy that I was committing to exercise in the gym and things like that, or just committing to exercise in general, it was not really improving my performance that much with real sports or, really useful activities in daily life, like throwing a ruck on your back and being able to walk. I mean, you'll see that a lot of times. Like you see these guys that they got muscles and they're lean, they got six packs or whatever, but they're incredibly unathletic. It's like a lot of times those are the least athletic guys you run into. Like when it comes to doing some real work, like maybe like building a fence or moving furniture or whatever, or playing a real sport or like swimming or whatever, like those are the guys, like basically like all that time and energy that they're committing to the gym is kind of like a hindrance in real life. And I guess you develop a lot of like postural habits and movement patterns that they're good for the gym, but they're not good anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So for example, like, and without getting too much into like this fitness geek stuff, for example, like externally rotating your hips all the time may be good for a heavy barbell squat because of like how it lines up your joints and all that. But, rotating your hips outwards isn't really great for any other activity like walking, sprinting, throwing a ball. You see like these bodybuilders and powerlifters and they're duck walking, right? Rather than having everything lined up where it's just more efficient and straight. So at the time, like in 2010, when I published my first book, people started referring to me as this functional training expert. And I remember at that time really thinking to myself, I was driving down the street here in Tampa and thinking, she's like, Mark, you got to be really honest with yourself. And like the thing probably is that like you don't really know that much. Like who? So I was wondering like how do I become this expert that everybody thinks I am? And those were kind of like my thoughts back in 2010. And I started asking myself, like, who really has the answers? And I started looking around, and really what I found is that I didn't really find anybody that had, like, really a solution to the fact that exercising just makes you good at exercising. It doesn't really make you good at anything else a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, the real riddle lies in that, basically, that you only get good at what you do. So like, let's say you want to get good at playing the viola. What do you have to do? You got to play the viola.
Got to learn what a viola is, and then you got to play it.
Yeah, or like the piano. You got to play. If you want to be good at playing the piano, you got to play the piano. If you want to get good at throwing high kicks, you got to throw high kicks. If you want to get good at throwing a ball, or football, you have to throw football, right? Don't throw baseball. Don't train the muscles that you use during throwing. Throw a ball. Just like when you play the piano. You're not going to get good at playing the piano. You're not going to train the same muscles that you use while playing the piano and expect to get better at playing the piano. It sounds ridiculous, right? But that's kind of what we're doing in the fitness and even the rehabilitation industry, is that we're too focused on the muscles that we use instead of the actual specific movements that are useful to us.
So what did you start doing, or how did you change?
Right. It took years, but
I thought you already had a pretty good thing going. So I'm curious to see now what you're.
I was on the right track at that time. So you are your own gym with the exercises it has in it, bodyweight exercises. It was on the right track, in that bodyweight exercise is with my exercise selection was less specialized than, for example, powerlifting and things like that. At a minimum, like if you get good at bodyweight exercise, you're at least getting good at using your actual body, rather than getting good at like moving machines around and stuff like that. But so the real thing is your adaptation is really specific. So if you want to get good at something, you have to do that specific thing. So when we have an exercise program with the intention of generally preparing us for life, which could be who knows what, then basically what we have to do is we have to identify what are the fundamental athletic skills that are always in use. And those are the things that we focus on and train. So, for example, like if we go back to playing instruments, if I told you, hey, in 3 months from now, you have to learn to play some random instrument as quickly as you possibly can, but you don't know what that instrument is, what could you do now to start preparing for that? Right?
Yeah.
And the answer is you could start learning the fundamentals of music that you would use for any instrument. Right? Like reading notes, like rhythm, like tones, breathing techniques or whatever, like sitting with good posture. And of course, then when it comes time to, like, I hand you some random piece of equipment, it's going to be much easier for you to learn that instrument because the fundamentals are already in place.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, well, it's just like with math, like you're going to have to specialize in some topic of mathematics, but you don't know which. A good thing for you to start doing now would be to brush up on your fundamentals. And it's the same with athletic ability. So basically, like, the next question is, like, what are those fundamentals and how do you train them? But that's the direction that my whole thinking on fitness has went. It's like learning anything else.
Yeah, so you talked about, or you told me earlier about you being more efficient. Isn't that something you've kind of been focused on too?
Yeah.
More efficient workouts? Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's another really big component that's missing in the fitness industry, is that performance is most closely related to efficiency. So basically, like, if you want to get better at something, a really easy way to do that is to just stop doing things that you don't need to be doing, so that you can basically get the most with the least. And I think one of the problems with our approach to fitness now is that we're very focused on muscles and burning calories, right? So we'll take these movements and we tense our muscles as much as we can while we're doing them, and basically, like, because we want to burn as many calories as we can, and we want to, like, build muscles. But what that does is it just makes us really inefficient in daily life because we're creatures of habit. So when you exercise, just like when you play a sport or when you're going through daily life, you want to do those things and stay as relaxed as possible. You want to learn. You want to get in the habit of making everything as easy as it possibly can be, right? Like, what are the easiest solutions for anything? And the way we approach fitness is very opposite of that. And that's another reason people tend to become so unathletic. They're just tense and inefficient.
Yeah, interesting. I hadn't thought about it in that depth anyway.
I was just going to say, if you look at our best athletes, they're the ones that are the most relaxed. They're efficient. They're always in the correct position. They just don't waste energy.
So what are some specifics that you do and that you teach to be efficient and to be more have natural movements? So
I think what are the fundamentals of athleticism? The basic, the most fundamental moves so you could basically ask, what movements do you need in order to survive? And I think it's the movements that we learn first in life and that we tend to lose last in life. Isolated functions of the joints, lateral rolling on the ground, transitioning between lying, crawling, kneeling, and standing positions, and then locomotion, basically getting from one place to another. So the basis of all athleticism is really being able to get from one place to another. And that starts on the ground. So spending a lot of time on the ground, learning transitions between lying, kneeling, and standing positions is a great way to build athletic ability. And basically the way humans generate force, it's typically with a weight shift and then rotation around the spine. Like that's how we walk, that's how we run. There's weight shifting, right, from left to right and forward. And then there's that sort of like contralateral hip and shoulder movement. Even if I'm throwing a ball, there's a weight shift and rotation around the spine. If I throw a punch, again, there's a weight shift. And let's say I'm like an orthodox fighter and I throw a straight right, that would be contralateral coordination. And the basis of that athletic ability is learned as a child on the ground. So I think that those are the most useful things for us to practice.
What role does stretching play in what you do?
Stretching is good. It depends. For most Westerners, it's extremely important because we sit in chairs all day. And basically, in order for us to be efficient, in order for us to perform properly, we need to be able to get into the right positions. And we want to be able to do that with the least amount of resistance possible. So stretching is great in that it helps you get into the positions that you need to be able to get into without basically fighting yourself. It's great. I mean, most people, it's great to stretch, and it's going to help you to relax. And a really simple way to stretch is just to spend more time on the floor.
So you don't do any specific stretching before, pre or post workout? Is it just something you always, I don't know, you've incorporated into your daily routine anyway?
Yeah, I do now. I used to not do it, and I think it depends on the person, but I think the more strength training you do, like I've gotten back into barbell lifts in the last, I think, year and a half, or free weights, and the more strength training I do, especially now that I'm 40, I basically I need to spend a few hours a week stretching. But what I really do in order to stay, I guess, as mobile as possible is I spend a lot of time sitting on the ground. I even sleep on the floor a lot, and just because it forces me to get up and down off the ground.
Do you make yourself stay on your back when you sleep on the floor, or do you roll on your side, or what?
No, I'm rolling around on the floor.
Okay. Yeah, I've done that. I've done that in periods of my life where I just, I guess the longest I've done it is 2 months straight. I slept on the floor, but I made myself stay on my back.
Oh, okay.
Because for some reason I thought if I laid on my side it would make my spine crooked or something. But that was 20 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, it's natural, obviously, for us to sleep on the floor, and I think a hard floor actually it forces you to move around because it's not that comfortable, and it massages you at the same time, because a massage is nothing other than pressure.
Well, there's something I forgot to ask you earlier, so this is kind of a little bit of a backtrack, but when you were still in the Air Force, you became an instructor, I guess, for the combat control pipeline.
Yes.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
So I heard that, some other instructors or somebody found out about somehow you incorporated your workout regimen into the training somehow. I mean, how did that work out, and what did you do?
Oh, so I was part of the cadre at air traffic control school. I didn't teach air traffic control. Basically, before our students went to ATC, we would handle all their physical training to prepare them for scuba school and all those other really physically demanding schools. I got to my duty station at Keesler Air Force Base for that assignment September 16th or something like that. It was right after September 11th. And I got my assignment something like September 6th of 2001. And obviously the demand for special operations troops was suddenly a lot higher. And they started telling us, like, hey, you got to train these guys. You can't just make these guys try to quit. So what I did was I actually created structured training programs. So rather than, we used to just have, it would say like calisthenics or pool. And then the instructor, like whoever happened to be on the schedule, would go to the pool or do calisthenics, and he would just randomly do whatever he wanted, and he would do it, like make it as hard as, he would just turn it into the biggest suck fest he possibly could. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like there was no real training structure or program to it. And at the time, I was still pretty young, my mid-20s, but I had enough experience to know that like getting anybody past the intermediate levels as far as performance, like you have to start exercise programming properly. Like how you structure stress application and then recovery becomes more important as an athlete advances. So over the 3.5 months that I had these students, I had everything written out as far as exactly the amount of everything was detailed from beginning to end. There was none of that. A guy's just going to show up and do whatever he wants, and it was incredibly informing to me in that we basically had 16 guys staying with us. We had 16 new guys arriving every 6 weeks, and they would stay for 3.5 months. And they had monthly evaluations. We had folders for every student. They had to go to bed at a certain time, wake up at a certain time, 3 mandatory meals. So it was highly structured. I mean, it was information that you would never get in any kind of like scientific study even. And I was there for 3.5 years gathering all this information and tweaking my exercise programs.
Were the meals, did you specify how many calories or break it down into fat or anything like that?
No, I mean, we would give them a nutrition briefing when they first arrived, and then we just said you had to go to the chow hall and eat.
Was it 5 days a week they had to train?
5 days a week, that's right.
Okay. Mm. Yeah, I remember my brother told me he burned so many calories during the week. On the weekends, he would sometimes come stay with me, and he said, all I want to do is eat and sit and watch TV. And he didn't feel bad about it because he burned.
And you know what? And that's the right thing to do. Yeah.
Well, what is a specific workout that maybe I don't know? Did you break it up into certain body types, like the standard back and bis, chest and tris, or had it push pull, or what did you do? So
I think one thing too that I'm not into at all anymore is categorizing. I think categorizing workouts and movements should be more based on developing certain skills rather than developing certain muscles. So there wasn't like a back and bis workout or anything like that. It was, most of it was skill based. It would be obstacle course running. It would be fin swimming. It'd be rucking or long distance running. Sometimes it would be calisthenics, but it was all just structured in a way so that there was a gradual progression of difficulty with periodic offloading. Yeah. It was a pretty complex exercise program. It would take me forever to kind of describe it, but we had kettlebells in there. We had barbell lifts in there. Obviously, we had bodyweight exercises, running, swimming, rucking, obstacle course. I think that's pretty much it. But every day for the entire 3.5 months was very clearly structured.
What was the feedback that you got, not only from the students, but also from maybe other instructors or your superiors or people who were watching from the outside?
Well, I never asked the students if they liked it or not, but their physical performance was spectacular. It was, and I was an instructor that told them what to do. The school, the classes where I was the proctor, I did every single event with them, so even when they screwed something up and I made them do push-ups and a bunch of flutter kicks or 8-count bodybuilders, I would actually get down and do it with them, because my thinking was that, they're my students. I'm the trainer. I'm the leader. It's my failure. So, but I remember they got in fantastic shape, and I think it was the first time I put that complete program together and ran through it with the class. I came back from we ran 3 miles in about 18.5 minutes, and then that was the entire class ran it at that pace. Then we did like a ladder workout for pull-ups where I did something like 55 pull-ups in total within a short amount of time, like 10 minutes. And then I bench pressed 225 for 16 reps immediately after that. So we were in good shape.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I think I weighed 156 pounds or 50 pounds.
Well, a former combat controller told me they called you Cyborg. Is that?
Oh, that's old. Yeah.
I
hadn't heard that in a long time.
Yeah, you know Ish, I guess, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Ish told me that years ago.
Wow.
Actually.
Okay. Yeah. Right. That was when I was going through as a student.
Well, I have this is a very obvious question, but I want your take on it. Why is it really important to be physically fit as a special operator?
I think because for the same reason that it's important for anybody, except that it's just because your life kind of depends on it potentially. Even for the average person, you never know what life's going to throw at you. You never know. Like you could have a child like trying to like run out into the street, and you got 15 meters to cover in the next few seconds, and you want to be able to do that. Or who knows, like Hurricane Katrina rolls in, there's floods, or you're in Phuket, Thailand, and a tsunami rolls in. You just don't know what life is going to throw at you. And so to me, physical fitness is nothing other than physical preparedness.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm 40 as well. And I'm noticing now I am stronger than I've ever been in my life, but I'm also less limber, and I feel a little more awkward now doing certain things, even like throwing a baseball. I got a jacked up shoulder, and I definitely don't recover as quickly, from workouts or small injuries. But what can somebody like me, I exercise 5 days a week. It sometimes gets very routine. But
Yeah.
what's the best thing for somebody like me to do to stay, and maybe to actually, because I'm not looking to enter a bodybuilding contest, but I want to feel good, and I want to be strong, but I want to be a little more limber too.
I get it. I mean, you want to feel good. You want to have performance to match how you feel, and let's keep it real. We all want to look good. I think reproduction is an important part of survival. So, again, I think locomotion, getting from point A to point B, is one of the most important skills fundamental skills that we need to practice. But so that would obviously include walking. Like once you can't really walk anymore, that's a really bad place in your life to be. So I walked for 45 minutes uphill on a treadmill today, and then I went and swam. I consider swimming a form of locomotion, which it is. Sprinting. I regularly go out and sprint 50, 100-meter sprints. And sprinting requires a lot of flexibility and coordination, and that'll make you strong and improve your stamina. You'll never meet a guy that has a fast 100 or 400-meter run, and where you can say, yeah, he can run like a 50-second 400-meter or whatever, but he's not athletic. But I would also include, and I think this is really important, transitions on the ground. Like just literally, like I practice rolling on the ground. So rolling from my back to my left side and then over my stomach to my right side, just rolling back and forth from between different positions on the ground, and then practice transitioning to kneeling and standing positions from laying positions. So I have a whole certification program that I've actually already introduced to a rehabilitation center for handicapped kids at the University of Cologne in Germany, and they're using it. And basically what I'm teaching people is the absolute most efficient way to get up off the ground. Like, what's the easiest solution to get off the ground? And that's kind of like, that's hard for me to describe here, but I don't really think I need to. Like, I think you could honestly, like, you just start spending more time on the ground, and over the months, your ability to stand up and get up and down off the ground is going to improve. And if you start including sprinting, some swimming and some climbing, you got a pretty good foundation for athletic ability.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I've definitely never heard anyone talk about the efficient ways to get up off the ground and spending time on the ground. But I'm gonna do some of that. Definitely.
Yeah, like pay attention to how you stand up off the ground, because I think what happens a lot of times, we go for speed and we rely on our strength, and we're like in this like muscle head mentality where we try to we use like really awkward, hard movements just because they're hard, right? And that kind of makes us, but we forget we're creatures of habit. So like we're building in these bad movement patterns. And I think, so working with people at assisted living facilities, I have a big interest in working with the elderly, where they're basically like they're starting to lose these fundamental skills. What I'm noticing is that it's so easy to teach them basically like how to roll again and how to stand up off the ground and how to walk without their crutches, because it's not, the issue isn't truly muscular strength. Their lack of strength comes from a lack of coordination. And all you have to do is teach them specifically the easiest strategies in order to solve certain problems, like how to roll and get up out of your bed so you can go to the bathroom at night, and it goes really fast.
One more thing, Mark, I wanted to ask you as we wrap it up. You've been involved in jiu-jitsu and boxing and all kinds of things. I mean, what is the craziest or most intense activity or sport that you've done, or event? I don't know. Maybe you've climbed Kilimanjaro or something. I don't know.
The most intense, or I think getting in the ring in Thailand is kind of scary, because the elbows, and my first Thai boxing match, I was doing a lot of jiu-jitsu, and that place did some MMA, but my coach basically asked me, hey, who wants to take this Thai boxing match? And I raised my hand, and he really shouldn't have done that, because Thai boxing is very unique because of the rules, and some small changes in the rules will kind of like, they totally change the dynamics of a fight. Long story short, I got my jaw broken in that fight, and I had my jaw wired shut for 6 weeks. And I dropped like 144 pounds, and I had to suck all my food through my teeth. But I continued boxing, and I actually went to Thailand after that, and fought a few more times professionally in full Muay Thai rules, which allows for elbows, knees, leg kicks, head kicks, everything else. And so, I mean, it sticks in the back of your head that, like, dang, bro, you had your jaw broken and here you are again.
Are you going to do any of that again?
No, man, I'm too old. And absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about CrossFit?
I think it's a young man's sport, and And I think with really good coaching and it can be good. I guess like the problem with it, you'll see people that get really like good, they get really good body composition, I guess. But you just got to be careful anytime. So my whole thing about fitness now is basically like, I want to teach people how to get into the right positions, right? Like what are the most efficient and therefore safest positions to be in, and then how to maintain those positions, right? So like get into those positions as mobility, and then maintain those positions as stability. And it's all about like maintaining that correct joint alignment. And I don't care about like, to me, exercise is really all about daily life and I guess what I would consider real sports. So anytime you take something like Olympic lifts and you're jamming people into these less than optimal positions over and over and over and over, as fast as you can, as heavy as you can, as long as you can, it's, you're like, your joints are not in optimal positions, and it's just going to create a lot of wear and tear. That's it. But it's just, CrossFit's a sport. So I think like as long as you recognize it as a sport, like let's say how you would consider boxing a sport, and we realize getting punched in the face is not really great for you, I think that's what you really need to, take it as.
Okay. Well, what else, Mark? Anything you want to share with us before we close it up?
Yeah, sure. I guess my biggest thing now that I have business wise is I got a whole bunch of video content that I've created, and now I'm creating a web app basically that takes single exercises, and the intention is to basically like you can put in your goals, and it's going to customize it's going to basically assemble a workout out of my exercise library based on the same rules that I would use if I asked you what your goals are. And then at the end of each workout, you're going to give me a little bit of feedback about how you like duration, intensity, and just generally liked it. And it's going to customize your next workouts for you. And that's going to be releasing January of 2017. And it's going to be a start of that. It's not going to be as highly customized as I just described in the beginning, but that's the end goal, to create a highly customized exercise platform that customizes your workouts from workout to workout based on user input.
That's awesome. Now, I may have misunderstood, but January, I think you said January of 17, did you? But just so listeners know, January.
I've been in Thailand too long. I don't even know what year it is anymore.
Well, just so nobody gets confused that's listening and wondering when I recorded this.
Yeah, 2018. Okay. But like, if whoever's interested in, I guess, my general approach to fitness and all that, I would say the easiest way to stay in contact or get in contact with me is via Facebook, and that's facebook.com/bodyweight, or just look up Mark Lauren. I got a personal account as well.
Yeah. Okay. Do you do any coaching in person or online, or is this app going to be your online coaching type thing?
Yeah. So I do certifications in German-speaking Europe for trainers and physical therapists, and in China and Japan as well. But as far as like one-on-one personal training, I just don't do it because I work on my products, books, DVDs, applications, and things like that, and I just have far greater reach that way and impact.
Well, great. There's a ton more I wanted to ask you, but I'll save that for another time. I mean,
okay.
And there's little things I wanted to pick your brain about, but one thing I do love about what you teach, and I'm looking at like your book, You Are Your Own Gym, and it's just you don't have to worry about crap, I don't have any weights. I don't have a gym to work out in. I mean, you don't need that. There's so much you can do without going to a gym, and and then I travel and I stay in hotels. I know you do too. And well, I got to ask you though, what are some things you do when you travel to make sure you can work out? Is there certain hotels that you have to stay in, or a certain location you want your room to be in the hotel? I mean, what's the deal?
No, I mean, it's bodyweight exercise. You can I can get a fantastic workout with just a little bit of floor space. And then, like even if you want to do free weights, I honestly think most gyms have 50-pound dumbbells, and there's so much that you can do with 50-pound dumbbells. I absolutely don't need a full gym. And if nothing else, go outside and run a dozen 100-meter sprints, and then do some bodyweight exercises, and you've had yourself a pretty great workout, I think.
Good stuff. So that's, Facebook.com/bodyweight, or just look up Mark Lauren. Yeah, you've got plenty of videos. You're online. You're easy to find. You also have another book, You Are Your Own Gym. Is it called Cookbook? I've got it. Whatever it is, it came out. I got it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Body Fuel. It's Body basically Fuel. The You Are Your Own Gym cookbook, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so much work, that cookbook. I did not expect, Random House approached me about that, and I was just not expecting a diet and a recipe book to be that much work.
Well, listen, I'm a fan of what you teach and what you do, and also appreciate you serving our country, Mark. And I know taking the fight to the enemy. We didn't talk anything about your deployments or anything like that, but anyway, just know it's appreciated by me and by so many of our listeners.
Yeah, well, thank you, Thad, and I appreciate what you're doing and giving me the chance to speak to you. And thank you for your family sacrifice and everything that you guys are doing.
While talking to Mark, I realized how I need to mix my workouts up a little more, and I need to get out and do some more running, some sprinting. I don't really enjoy running that much, but go out and do some sprints and some bear crawls, or just work on some more functional movements more than I am, and just get out of the gym a little bit more. But anyway, I really enjoyed that. I hope you did as well. I kept trying to get some specifics out of him, and I know there's plenty of, his book has plenty of pictures, and then of course you've got just some great videos online where he can show you a lot of exercises. So I encourage you to go check those out. And I would ask you to go please check out my page on Patreon. That would be Patreon, patreon.com/Patriot to the core. Patreon is basically a platform where creators can solicit support from patrons. And these are people that are artists, they're musicians, they're YouTube videographers, I guess, video makers, they're gamers, they're also podcasters, and a lot of other different types of creators. But some people offer something special in return if you do sign up as a supporter. I do offer some small incentives to be a supporter, but mine are my options are like $2, $5, and $10 a month. If you support in those different categories, then you'll get something in return, and you'll see those listed if you just go to patreon.com and /Patriot to the core. I'd appreciate you checking it out. Anyway, regardless, thank you for listening, and I appreciate your continued support in any way, even just with the download. Those are huge, so thank you.